Well, I think we should probably talk about how horribly underdressed I am.
Stop it, you look lovely.
Oh, thanks. I tried to find my campus jumper.
This is your campus jumper?
Well, it's not my campus jumper, but it's the campus jumper that I had that was washed.
I see.
So you know you get into that cycle, I think through lockdown, it's been a case of, I haven't really had to prep for anything apart from like the waist up. So it's...
I thought this was going to be waist up. I've worn my worst trousers.
I suppose we should probably talk about who you are.
Oh, yes! Well,
So you're a multi-talented drag performer,
thank you.
cabaret artiste.
Thank you.
So for the muggles at home, who is Alfie Ordinary?
Alfie Ordinary is the son of a drag queen, which makes him a drag prince, and as a drag prince, he identifies as one thing and one thing only, and that's goddamn fabulous.
And aren't you just? Aren't you just?
I wore this because I thought it was going to be from the waist up. It's got a nice hat and the shoulders.
Don't worry, I'm wearing my rancid trainers as well. So
Fine.
between the two, I mean, I can't compare though. So I Think I Might Be Fabulous is your kind of your big show.
Yeah.
It's toured internationally. You've taken it from the Brighton Fringe out to places as far as Adelaide and San Diego and Mexico as well.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how did you create that show?
I did a master's degree, and during that I got really into cabaret and queer theatre and queer performance art, and I was looking at clowning as well. And as part of the dissertation I was looking at the relationship between clowning and drag, and I was looking at otherness within performance, and I wanted to create a drag character that existed on the fringes of his own community, so not necessarily a drag queen or a king, so I made the drag prince character, so he was kind of the son of a drag queen. So I was really, I just discovered kind of like what it was to be a queer artist. I'd never really used the term queer before.
Right.
And so I was like learning loads of things, and so I kind of made this character that could also learn as well, and I kind of wanted to be able to communicate with an audience like, I found out this thing, it's called heteronormativity, I can't believe it. Because I was genuinely like blown away by these things that I was learning, and suddenly everything started to make sense, and I was suddenly like, I wasn't just an artist, I was a queer artist, and then I researched drag, otherness, clowning, and my research kind of started the basis of the show, and I was just starting to do little cabaret shows in there, so I was just kind of trying out material, seeing if it worked, and then just basically building a show. I remember I had 20 minutes of material that I was happy with when I applied for Brighton Fringe for the first time, and then as things go, it's like, okay, here's the date of the show. I did 2 shows at the Marlborough Theatre. One was a matinee at 2 in the afternoon, the other one was like 6 a few weeks later. And so I had another 40 minutes of show to write within a few months, and so I just kind of like put loads of things together and just kind of did it. And I guess it was all right the first time. Did a few changes for the next time.
And that was the inception.
That was like the first showing of it. And weirdly enough, the Brighton Fringe came along, the director of Brighton Fringe came along, and then the judging panel. So at Brighton Fringe, you can just apply for any awards and things. And they kind of encourage you to like, just apply for everything. It's just a form. So I did. I applied for it. Best poster, best this, and that. And I was like, just spending an afternoon filling in some forms. And then suddenly I got like an email being like, oh, you've been nominated for an award. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, that sounds lovely. Wow. Brilliant. And then I got a phone call being like, this was after the second show. Bear in mind, the first show, I did I think there was a good 4 minutes of nothing happening on stage.
Fantastic.
I'm quite into that sort of theatre, but this was not the show.
It wasn't going for sort of like postmodern performance
No,
art.
if I'm honest, I just couldn't get in my costume. Like, I couldn't zip it up. I was just there, like, and I don't know if you've been to the Marlborough Theatre, but there's no kind of backstage. It's like a small stage with like two flaps instead of wings. So I was there, and I'm pretty sure the audience could see me being like scuffling around and trying to
There's
find
nothing like one of those moments in performance there where something goes wrong. I mean, what you've now, from quite humble beginnings at the Marlborough, which is known as a really queer venue here in Brighton, to taking the show internationally, what have been the things that you've learned as the show's developed, as it's seen new places, new audiences?
There is nothing like doing a show to maybe 4 people in a country that you've never visited before, for you to go, oh, this bit's funny because everyone laughed, or like, you know, there's what I noticed about. I mean, this was, I think, my first Australian Fringe, which was my first like proper run.
Was it Adelaide?
Adelaide, yeah. So I went to Adelaide Fringe, just in this tent, didn't know anyone there, was just kind of like just trying to get anyone to come, as you do, and it's that's when I really learned the actual show. Like, I've done it a few times before, and then doing it every day was where you go like, oh, this bit really works, great, I'll do that a little bit more and see if that works even more, and you really kind of pull all the really good bits out and you ditch the bad bits that aren't quite communicating well.
So do you feel like the show do you feel like it's a different show now? Or
I mean, technically it's the same show,
the same
but it's
show.
like, so I've been doing that show for 5 years, maybe 6 years now, and yeah, as I said, the first ever show, there was like a good 4 minutes of me doing a costume change that went pretty quickly. And I just kind of, like I said, I had 20 minutes of material and I decided to do a show at Brighton Fringe. That went well, so I did it again the next year. And when it came to the next year, I'd sort of like got better costumes and everything kind of looked a bit more tidy, and I kind of understood the context of the show, and so I was able to communicate that through the
It's kind of about refining aesthetic as well, isn't it? You learn that as you build anything creative.
Oh, absolutely. Like, nothing is done the first time. Like, if someone says, like, yeah, I wrote a show and it's really good, like, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, like, come back in a year's time and it will... I mean, some people may be able to do that, but I can't. I always feel like the first one is going to be a bit rough.
Yeah.
Because I think you learn so much from the audience, and there are moments that you will never do twice because the audience are different. So, yeah, it's definitely developed and fine-tuned and, you know, and I think doing things like Brighton Fringe where you've got audiences there that change, and you've got different critics will come, and you've got reviewers. It's not all about good reviews, it's definitely about bad reviews as well. Like, I got a pretty harsh review, and it genuinely made me take a part of the show out, and then suddenly I watched it and was like, oh, actually, yeah, he's got a point.
Yeah.
And yeah, and all of that is available there to you at Brighton Fringe.
And it's amazing that, you know, Brighton Fringe, which I suppose in the scheme of the kind of global theatre community is one fringe among many, but it's amazing that it's such an amazing creative hub. I know that we were just talking before the interview, and I think we've been in Brighton for about the same amount of time, about 7 or 8 years, maybe. Yeah. What was it that brought you, was it study that brought you to Brighton?
No, so I did my master's at the University of Chichester, which is about 45 minutes away from here, so Brighton was kind of my nearest exciting place. And the tutors on the masters had a great relationship with the Marlborough and other venues around, and so we were constantly going backwards and forwards to Brighton to see different shows, and I think they actually do their showcase here at the Spire. Have you been to the Spire?
I have. So we take some of our student projects up there. We've got quite a good relationship as an organisation with them as well.
So yeah, they've got a good relationship with Brighton, and again, it's just like a great kind of creative hub. There's so many different types of performance and art, music, like there's all these different scenes that are just there for you. Like I moved here because I was interested in drag, and there is drag every single day of the week.
And a plethora of it as well.
Oh, so much of it.
Old school British drag up in the Kent Town pubs. You've mentioned how certain venues here in Brighton have been a really kind of formative part of that journey. Yeah. What do you think it is about sort of Brighton nightlife, Brighton culture? What is it about Brighton that brings all of this here?
Big question. I think Brighton's just got an incredible history of celebrating diversity. I think we've got like a big camp palace built in the middle of the city with apparently tunnels that lead to all the shady bars around it, which I think is wonderful.
Absolutely.
But we've got this kind of long, this deep set, I don't know, affliction with the arts, I think, here in Brighton. And I think people gravitate towards here from all round because they enjoy, say, nightlife or art and performance theatre. there's so many theatres, there's so many fringe theatres. We've got the biggest fringe festival in England, which is here, and it's so supportive. Like, I was so shocked my first year doing the fringe to find out that the office, if you call up, it's one of maybe 3 people that answers. Like, it's a small team.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it's so local. Like, I don't mean that in like a derogatory way.
You get on like first name terms.
I know, absolutely. Like, if I see like the director of Brighton Fringe, it's just like, oh hey, like, and it really is like, if you want to be part of a community, you've just got to go ahead and say hi and be part of it. It's out there here in Brighton. Whatever you like doing, like obviously I'm part of, say, the Fringe community, and there's all different events that go on throughout the year, and there's Brighton Fringe is great because it's got a whole workshop program leading up to Fringe, so you can learn about Arts Council funding, you can learn about marketing, you can learn about social media, you can learn about, I don't think you can learn about writing the show. I think they hope you can do that. But all the bits around it, which are so invaluable for an artist, things like Arts Council funding, I honestly have no clue about it. And they actually bring someone from Arts Council to tell you what to do. And then they give you their phone number at the end. And they're like, if you need anything, this is my email, this is my number, call me.
It's so important knowing how to self-produce. I think even more so in the world now, when you're working on the fringe circuit, it's something we're really passionate about here at IC Theatre, is making sure that our students, whether they're training to be musical theatre performers or actors or theatre makers or whatever, that they have a grasp of the business aspects of the industry, because it is almost a larger part of your process that you go through than the creative bit, which is the lovely fun bit.
When people are like, oh yeah, it must be so much fun, you know, being a drag performer, I'm like, yeah, I send lots of emails, you know, I fill out invoices and things, and like, these are all things that you're not taught. Well, I wasn't taught at uni, and then there's things that you just kind of have to learn on the job, and so it's really great. I think, again, like, if I wasn't living here, I wouldn't have friends that were able to be like, oh, this is what an invoice looks like. There you go, just swap my name for your name, and then you know, like those sort of things, that it's great to meet people that are already doing something like what you do.
Absolutely.
Whether it's exactly the same or not, like, and then you learn from those people, and there are so many things. And people are like, oh, how do you get work? And I think about it, and I'm like, well, Facebook, mostly. Like, someone will message me being like, are you available on this date? And I'm like, yeah, what do you want me to do? And they're like, oh, a karaoke here. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Like,
it's the importance of networking as well. Like you were saying about, you know, the fact that the Fringe creates this community, this network, these connections between people. Like, it provides fantastic opportunities for collaboration and for even just for support, because there are so many people who are going through that process of trying to make it work. Are you right there?
I've got a hair in my...
Oh no!
Oh well, it's just my wig, but you know.
Because you know, the southeast and surrounding areas of Brighton as well. You know, there are so many other opportunities as well. So what, maybe apart from Brighton Fringe, what's been your best gig down here, and why?
I would say Pride. We have a huge Pride here, and obviously because of what I do, there's a lot of opportunities around there, and Pride kind of starts like the London area. There are all
it's Pride Week.
Exactly, and it's not just the floats and the parties and like Kylie Minogue and Britney Spears. Like, there are theatre shows. I know that the Pride, I don't know if you know this, but Pride have now built 2 theatre spaces in Brighton, just literally around the corner. 2 like fully equipped theatre spaces that are also equipped to film, so it's a film studio as well.
Wow.
So you can have like a live audience doing a film, or you can do.
So I saw they did the televised stuff last year. Was that using one of those spaces?
Yeah, so they converted the office space for COVID to make a virtual Pride, and then they just carried on doing it, and they got the space next door, and now they've built, it's got a revolving stage.
Oh my god, I love a revolve.
I know. I went in to visit, and they were like, come and look at this, and I was like, is that...
It's like a mini national, just...
But it's like a fully adaptable space, so you can have it like small cabaret seating, or I think it goes up to like 170, but again, so that's another kind of whole network of opportunities within the arts that is it's available, and it's kind of available to the community for being here.
And the amazing link that Pride obviously has with raising funds for local organisations and all that kind of stuff. I think that's one of the most exciting things. One of the things that drew me to Brighton was the thing we've already spoken about, this incredibly open and diverse and accepting feeling down here. But I had no idea that Pride was also venturing into that realm of performance as well.
It is. I think like Pride is great for showcasing lots of kind of underground local queer talent, which is amazing. There are lots of different stages. You've got your main stage with your big acts, but I've done a show on a stage called Queer Town Stage, which is like a caravan.
Yeah.
And it was me, Joe Black, who's been on Drag Race recently.
Gorgeous Joe.
Ginny Lemon was there, and Lorraine Bowen from Britain's Got Talent. We all just did like 20 minutes each, and it was just sort of like a local fun time just out in the sun. And yet, like I said, like Pride kind of lasts all week, and to the next one there are so many different things going on. There's like Pink Fringe, which is part of the
Of course.
They'll do like a whole kind of month of great queer theatre work, performance art.
And one of the things I really wanted to ask you about, because I know, was it in 2018 you collaborated with Traumfrau on the piece at the Spiegel tent, the big...
Oh, the big pageant!
The drag queen pageant.
Oh my God,
and that,
yes!
That sort of leads me on to, I think a really important question for people watching is, who are going to be watching you and going, how do I get into this form of performance? How do I start?
Oh
So, how did you... Where did the idea or your participation in the big drag pageant come from? And my question that runs onto, because I'm just going to let you free flow, is what advice do you have for people who are starting out, who are thinking about coming and studying performance in Brighton, who want to take advantages of these things, who want to be involved in queer performance or drag is queer performance?
Gosh, so the big drag pageant, Brighton's big drag pageant, it was basically, again, it's that thing of being like, not being in the right place at the right time, but I was literally stood watching a show next to the guy that runs the Spiegel tent.
Right.
So the Spiegel tent is not back to Fringe, but like one of the big venues at the Fringe. And the Spiegel tent is just so gorgeous. There's mirrors everywhere, mirror balls, disco balls, and it was just so stunning. And they've got this big.
It's like stepping back in time when I go in there. It's like stepping into like a scene from Moulin Rouge.
It's like genuinely. I think it was built in the 20s or 30s or something, and they just kept it going,
it's
and it
gorgeous.
gets packed away and brought back out around the world. And it was just so gorgeous in there. And I saw this long runway, and I just said to the guy that runs it, because I just happened to be stood next to him watching this show, and I was like, God, wouldn't it be great if we did a drag pageant in here? And he went, yeah, that sounds good. And then when it came to like planning for the Fringe afterwards, I just got a phone call being like, so that pageant, do you still want to do it? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I hadn't run anything like that scale before, and I was just about to go to Australia, so I was like, look, I can't do this. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm just about to go away for a whole month that I should be planning for this thing for. And I don't want to do it, basically. Like, I obviously want to do it, but I don't think I've got the time. And he was like, oh, well, do you know Ronnie from Traumfrau? And I was like, yeah, I know Ronnie. And then he was like, cool, well, I've already called her and she's on board. I was like, great. And so Ronnie just kind of took the reins and was just made this pageant happen.
So what would be your advice to people who want to start in drag or become drag princes or drag queens or drag kings or anyone? What would be your top tips?
100% just go and see shows. Like, go and see as many shows. I would be in the Queen's Arms or at Legends as often as I could, watching these drag queens. The Powder Room, watching the American queens. Like, just see, you absorb so much when you're first starting out, and it really does. It's really important to be informed, not just about kind of making your own work, but about what else is around, And as doing that, you then become part of a community. Whether you're just an audience member, whether you start doing it, but it's literally, you can get a gig from just going to a bar, and then you're watching it, and then you can go and talk to the manager, and then the next week you could be doing an opening slot for that drag queen or something like that. But in terms of like finding out who you are, that kind of thing, like you watch things and you're like, I like that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I want to make that my own.
I think that's how we all started doing this as performers or in theatre or, even as musicians. We saw someone and we just went, I want to look fab like that.
Stars in their eyes. I remember watching the kids' Stars in their eyes, and I saw this girl, she must have been like 15, and she did Bonnie Tyler's Totally Gives with Heart, and honestly, I've never seen something so incredible, and I was like, that's amazing, and I feel like that might have been the moment that I was like, I'm going to be a performer.
So your colour palette's bringing me life at the moment, because my moment where I realised that I just wanted to swan around in fancy outfits was watching the Disney version of Aladdin and looking at Jafar and going, extra,
Oh my
so
God,
extra,
yes.
like sort of sardonic and campy and silly, and wanted to take over the world.
Absolutely.
And that was 100%.
That's it. It's either you've got two options as a young queer boy, and you can go down the kind of Jerry Halliwell Spice Girls route and be like, I'm going to be a pop star and take over the world, or you're going to be like, I'm going to be a Disney villain and take over the world. What is it?
So what would you say? Okay, so if you could describe Brighton in 3 words, how would you describe it?
Oh God, I don't know.
Is that the 3 words? I don't know.
I would say diverse, welcoming, and just gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Alfie Ordinary,
This
for
is
coming
very
and talking
lovely.
to us. It's been so fantastic about hearing about the work that you do, and just those little tidbits of advice for people who might be watching.
And if anyone has any questions, like, my email is online. You just honestly send me a message on Instagram, anything, and I will quite happily take you to one of these bars. The key to a successful life in drag is to go out drinking. No, but you know, it's literally like this is a friendly place. We are welcoming. You know, it's me like advertising. Right, come on, we're all lovely.
Come on down.
We'll have a camp time. But like, it is that, you know. Any questions? Please ask me. Never. I don't know what to say now. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. Cheers.